Hey everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. And in this video I want to talk about one of the projects that I've been working on. Now the name of this project is Lava Temple. It's actually currently live on the Play Store, and I've been using the Play Store as a bit of a test bed to see what's actually going on in these stores, and just testing it out with things like Unity ads and things like that. But essentially, I've been adding a lot more polish to it. This is a project that I started a long time ago, but it never really, saw an actual launch. And that's kind of what I've been doing right now. I've just been adding a lot of polish to kind of show you what are the kind of things that I've been working on. Is, if you notice now, we have a lot of audio, we have a lot of visual polish, and the game is something like this. Essentially, you've got a bunch of platforms, and your job is to jump from this one to the next one. Once you die, you get an option to watch an ad, and if you hit no, then it you essentially get the game over screen, and you can start all over again. And once you die, you can watch an ad, and it does this little revive mechanic. And that's what the revive mechanic looks like. Now, at the moment, the only way to actually see the revive mechanic is through dying and watching an ad, but eventually this is going to be a power-up. So like I said, this is a real work in progress, and even though it's currently launched on the Play Store, it's more of like a minimum viable project. I really wanted to put something out there and get some feedback and see what sort of support and what sort of response I'm getting from the people, and the response has been really well. So essentially, this, for example, revive mechanic is going to be a power-up which will eventually be able to purchase through the store. Also, we have this main menu here. So the app is in a pretty stable state at the moment. There are some little bug fixes that I'm working on as well. I just muted the audio so that you could hear me. Within the actual app, all of these rate and share buttons work. The how to play works as well here in the editor. And essentially, that's kind of what I've been focusing on. So I'm just going to quickly restart this level so that I can actually talk about some of the things that I've done. So let's just give this a quick second. And here we are. So one of the things that I've really worked on is, like I said, adding a lot of polish. I want to call attention to this this UI bar here. Notice how it goes away when you're in the air, because I didn't want that to essentially just be taking up real estate while you're jumping and not doing anything. Another thing is that I've added, this sort of increasing pitch / volume sound for the power bar, which sounds something like this. So moving on, the other things that I've done is you can listen to some of the audio when he's jumping up, when he's landing. There's particle effects that take off when he jumps and when he lands. There's also this really sort of satisfying oomph sound when the other platform sort of comes out of the ground, and you can notice that there's this sort of like a little punch animation. So when you do land onto the next platform, the platform which comes out with a little bit of an oomph, and I really felt very satisfied. I don't know why I keep hitting no here. So that essentially is something that feels really satisfying while you're playing. Other things that I've really worked on is if you notice some of these tiles, essentially they function the same, but there's some variety. Previously, in the first very old version of the game, all of the tiles kind of look like this, but now there's a little bit of variety in how the tiles look. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm sure all of the tiles will just pop out as the same, but there's some which have corners like this, and so on and so forth. Some have wooden planks, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on. Another thing that I've been really focusing on is performance. So just essentially making sure that the game is performant on all the sort of the newer end devices, but also really targeting the lower end devices. Personally, I have a couple of low end devices, and I've just been testing them, and those have kind of been like a benchmark for essentially trying to see how performant it is and how well it performs. And yeah, you can see some of these sort of particle effects that are floating around in the air. There's also particle effects when he revives. So when I hit the yes button now, and when he comes out and revives, I want you to notice that there's going to be the wings, and then there's going to be the smoke and things like that, which I'm really pretty happy and satisfied with. So far the project has been coming along really well, and I have a lot of plans for this. It just depends on how much time I have that I can spend on this project. So yeah, these are some of the things that I've really been working on. So one of the things that I've been really working on is, this is, for example, a Trello board, just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that are in the pipeline. I'm really excited about implementing leaderboards. For now, it's going to be a quick and dirty sort of a solution. Just something to see what the other players are doing, what sort of high scores they're getting, and I think it'll add something to the game. I'm really curious to see what sort of scores other people are getting, what you guys are getting as well. So I've been looking at a couple of tutorials for just implementing some simple Google services leaderboards, and that'll be a quick and dirty way of getting something in there quickly. I have been thinking about power-ups. So for example, going back to the game, some of the power-ups that I've been thinking about is there's going to be power-ups which will let you essentially bring platforms closer. So the farther you progress in the game at the moment, what happens is that these platforms, they sort of randomly get a little bit farther and farther within, randomly generated, of course. And also, and I don't know if I'll be able to show it to you, but as you progress, what happens is that these platforms that are spawning, these platforms also get a little bit smaller, so you can already see that this platform is a little bit smaller than the one that we're currently on. So the game becomes arbitrarily difficult and more difficult. Another thing that's in the pipeline is going to be slowly moving platforms, so it's going to make the game a little bit more harder still. And speaking of power-ups, the kind of power-ups that I've been thinking about is essentially sort of power-ups which let you bring the platform a little bit closer so that it's easier to make that jump. Another power-up that I've thought about is the power-up which allows you to bring back the tile or the platform onto the maximum size. The maximum size is 5 by 5, and the smallest size currently is 2 by 2. And if you get a 2 by 2 one, which is well, all the best to you, because it is extremely difficult to make that sort of a jump. And another power-up by extension is going to be one that lets you stop a moving tile. And ultimately, I feel like all three of these power-ups should be compoundable. So kind of like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where you've got a couple of lifelines, but you can sort of use multiple lifelines on the same challenge. So the idea is that if there's a really far away platform, you should be able to bring the platform closer to you. You should be able to expand it, and so on and so forth. But again, that's something which is in the pipeline. It hasn't really materialized yet. I'm also not 100% sure as to how to progress in terms of the power-ups, in terms of should there be a small little inventory or something like that, where this power bar maybe slides out and the inventory comes over here, and then you can pick and choose your power-ups. And speaking of power-ups, it also immediately means that there needs to be some other additional facilities and functionality. For example, once I've got the leaderboards implemented, I do want to implement some sort of a collectible in-game currency which you can then use in the store, which I would also have to build, where you can purchase these power-ups. And I really need to sit down one of these days, talk to a couple of friends, and just kind of knock down some initial progression. I'm really open to suggestions if some of you are good game designers as to how to progress, because there's a couple of different ways that you can progress, a couple of different directions in which I want to go, and I'm not 100% sure. So for example, it could be that you could have an inventory and you could just buy these power-ups before the start of the game and use them throughout. Another one could be that you just find them on the next platform arbitrarily, and you could essentially pick that up and it goes into your inventory. And then there's a couple of different ways. For example, if you look at if you look at Temple Run, they have a wide variety of these power-ups which spawn in the world, but then you can essentially make them better by using coins that you collect in Temple Run. So it could be something like that as well, where for example a power-up which allows you to bring the platform close to you, let's say it's level 1, only allows you to bring it closer by a little bit, but level 2 and level 3 you could level that same power-up up, allowing you to bring the platform closer and closer, thereby allowing you to get higher and higher scores. One of the things that I want to say is that this is not supposed to be a hyper-casual game. That's not the sort of game that I was going for, but rather a casual game. And I make that distinction between casual and hyper-casual simply because I don't want this to be a super fast-paced game. And I know that when immediately people look at this, a lot of people have given me a sort of feedback that this is a really stop and start game, and it is that. I agree that it is a stop and start game, but it is that by design. It's the sort of game that I wanted to make. I didn't want to just make another Endless Runner, sort of a fast-paced temple run game. I wanted to do something a little bit different, still within the mobile sort of genre, still within the endless genre, but I wanted to do something like endless jumping. And now that some of these power-ups that I'm talking about, at least in my mind at this point in time, the game is more of like a little bit of strategy, a little bit of luck, and a little bit of casual aspect. But I don't want this necessarily to be a game where a person is frantically pressing buttons. Now, maybe that means that the game is not good. I don't know. We'll just have to see as I progress. But it will ensure that it is the game that I make, that I want to make. And that is something that, you know, that is, it's essentially my project. It's like a pet little project of mine. So we'll just have to see where that goes. Again, I'm really open to suggestions. For example, consider this platform and this jump right now. It's extremely difficult. I'm going to miss it. And at this point in time, I kind of wish I had a power-up which would allow me to bring this next platform a little bit closer. And sure enough, I died. So yeah, those are some of the things that I've been thinking about. Those are some of the things that I've been doing. What else? Yeah, so a lot of design decisions need to be made. There's other things as well, for example, and I'm not 100% sure, again, design related, is I do want to have different skins, I do want to have different characters, and there's a couple of different directions that you can go there as well. For example, the skins could just be cosmetic. That's the easiest way, right? So for example, if I go on the main menu, you have these, sorry about that. So let's say you pick up this currency, and on the main menu you just have like a little shop, and in that shop you can buy these different skins for a different amount of gems or skulls or whatever currency you wanted, whatever currency that goes in this game. And you could use those currencies to essentially pretty much buy character skins. And that might be one way of doing it, which have no impact on the fundamental game except just the visuals. Another different direction that might be a little bit more complicated could be that different characters have different abilities, or different abilities which you can rank up, and so on and so forth. So for example, an example of that might be that a lot of people, what they told me, a lot of feedback that I got was, when you're making this jump, and let's say you know you're overshooting and you're gonna die, a potential feature, power up slash, you know, passive ability for a character might be that while you're in the air and you know you're dying, have the ability to swipe down and immediately straight nosedive down. And that would be something where you know you're dying and you straight down dive, and if you land on the platform then you survive. But it might be a situation where, hey, if you overshoot it, or if you swipe down too quickly, then you're gonna just plummet to your own death, which I thought is kind of funny. And one of my friends suggested this, and I really enjoyed it. I haven't coded it. It's not something really hard to code, but that's something that I'll be fooling around and testing around as well. Another suggestion that I've got from a lot of people, and I've tried this out, I tried implementing a swipe mechanism, and people said that maybe tap and hold wasn't as intuitive. Swipe just felt fun. I have tried currently using swipe functionality, and for a while I thought that it would be something which I could have as like a toggle setting, and people could do tap and hold as well as swipe, but I really just did not enjoy the swipe mechanism. You know, it just, in terms of balancing, in terms of tweaking, it just it felt like a little bit of a nightmare to figure out you know, sensitivities and swipes and swipe forces, and I wasn't enjoying it that much. So at the moment, the swipe functionality is a little bit on the back burner in terms of using it as a core mechanism for jumping, but I'm very much open to, for example, having that swipe down special passive. And when I talk about that sort of an ability where you're jumping in the air and you have the option to sort of swipe and essentially go nosedive straight down, then that could either be a power-up, right? It could also be some sort of a special power-up which you can pick up in the environment, but it could also be a sort of a passive ability of a new character that you unlock, right? So by extension, you could have different character skins which actually offer you benefits. So let's say you start off with this stock character, but now you unlock this character which has this new passive ability, and this is naturally going to survive or increase your chances of survival. Similarly, you could have another character which maybe has like a jetpack on his back, and while you're in the air, instead of down swiping, you could swipe upwards, and it could maybe, I don't know, give you a little bit of a boost forward, and again allow you to jump a little bit longer, and things like that. So I haven't really made all of these design decisions. I'm a little bit confused, but those are the things, those are the tough sort of questions that I have to answer. Ultimately, if I had an infinite amount of time, or if I was working on this full time, then the answer to all of those questions would be just trial and error. I feel like the best way to make games is really just to build them, put them in people's hands, and see what they think, see what sticks, you know. But unfortunately, I do have full-time working hours, and what that means is that I don't have the sort of liberties of just trying everything. And when I do try things, then they take a lot of time, essentially, because all I can really work on this project is maybe 15 to 20 hours a week. That is after, you know, my 45 hours a week that I'm currently working anyways. So I'm really proud of the sort of things, the way that this game is coming along. And those are some of the confusions and the things that I'm thinking about. If you're listening in on this video, and if you feel like, you know, if you've got some cool suggestions, then please make my job a little bit easier and help me build this game a little bit better. I'm open to suggestions. I'm always open to suggestions. And if you want to try out this game, then I'll definitely be dropping down a link in this in the description. The game, when you play it, might be a little bit different from what you're seeing right now, because I'm actively updating the game. And like I said, the leaderboards is going to be one of the things that I'll be updating as soon as possible. I expect that to be the next big sort of update. So yeah, guys, that's kind of what I've been doing. I think I've kind of caught you guys up to speed on some of the new changes. If you do decide to try the game out, please let me know what you think. Please let me know if the game is enjoyable, or, you know, if you have any suggestions for making the game better. Please let me know as well. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you guys soon, hopefully with some more cool new kick-ass stuff. Bye.